A very good afternoon, dear kids. Welcome to your EVS class. Children, I'm sure that all of you must have enjoyed the weekend and must be feeling very energized. So, let's get started with today's class. Children, in the lesson Animal Life, in our previous class, we had learned about carnivores and omnivores. So today, we will learn about scavengers, parasites and decomposers. So, first, let's start with scavengers. Now, scavengers are the animals that eat the flesh of animals that have already died and whose flesh is rotting or decaying. So, scavengers feed upon the flesh of dead and decaying animals. So, scavengers are also a type of carnivores that eat the flesh of animals, but instead of hunting, they prefer to eat the flesh of already dead animals. Now, these animals, these dead animals whose flesh the scavengers are eating, they could have died because of many reasons. Some of the reasons include maybe they died because of natural causes, like they were very old, so they could not hunt or go in search of food, so they died because of hunger. Then they could have been killed by another carnivores like lions, leopards or tigers, and once they had eaten the leftovers that were left behind, the scavengers would feed upon those leftovers. Or maybe these animals were killed because of any accident. Maybe they were hit by the train while they were crossing the railway tracks. So, these could have been some of the reasons because of which the animals have died, and the scavengers then feed upon the flesh of these animals. Now, scavengers actually play a very important role in our environment as they keep it free from the dead bodies, that is the bodies of the dead animals. Now, once these animals die, their flesh starts to rot, because of which very bad odor spreads in the air. So, the scavengers feed upon the flesh of dead animals and keep our environment clean. They also break down the organic material and release back the nutrients into the environment. These nutrients are given back to the soil, air and water. So, they go back into the environment and then the plants use these nutrients to grow. Now, some birds are scavengers, but vultures are the only ones that actually eat the flesh of the dead animals. That is, they are the only members of the animal kingdom which have to scavenge in order to eat and survive. There are many carnivores which, if an opportunity is presented, will also feed upon the flesh of dead animals. Some such examples includes the striped hyenas, coyotes, foxes. Then there are many insects like cockroaches, flies, beetles. Then in water also there are crabs, lobsters, which might feed upon the dead animals if there is an opportunity. Now, here you can see the vultures and the hyenas that are feeding upon the flesh of the dead animals. Now, there are certain adaptations that the vultures have which makes them an ideal scavenger. Some of these adaptations are that they have an excellent eyesight and a very strong sense of smell, both of which are actually useful to the vulture in finding the rotting meat even when they are flying high in the air. Now, vultures are also meat-eating birds, but unlike the hunting birds like eagles, hawks, kite, falcons, they do not have strong talons or beaks. So, they do not need to hold their prey firmly. They simply have to feed upon the flesh of dead animals in order to survive. Many vultures are also bald, means they do not have any feathers on their head. This is actually an advantage to them because it prevents the bits and pieces of decaying flesh to getting stuck in their feathers, and if that flesh had any toxins or poison, then it could have infected the bird and ultimately killed it as well. So being bald is actually a good thing for the vultures. Now many mammals are also scavengers, means they are traditionally carnivores, but if there is an opportunity, they can be a scavengers as well, like the striped hyenas. For example, if a single hyena is there, then it would either feed upon the flesh of dead animals, or it may steal the meat from other carnivores or the predators. But if a pack of hyenas is there, then they might hunt and kill small animals like antelopes, deers and zebras, and then eat the flesh of those animals. Now let's learn about the parasites. Parasites are the organisms that actually live in the body of a living organism or on the body of other living organisms like the animals. And these living organisms or the animals are known as hosts. And these parasites actually get nutrients from their hosts or at the expense of their host, means the host will not get the nutrient, but the parasite will take it away from the host. So in this case, the parasites actually get benefited because they are getting all the nutrients and the food from the host, and the host is losing out on it, and because of that it may become weak and may even get sick. Now there are certain parasites that live on the body of the host, like the examples include head lice that can be found in the hairs, head lice that causes itching or rashes, then leeches which get stuck to the body of animals and suck blood from their bodies, fleas which might be living on the fur of animals like dogs and cats, then ticks. So all these parasites get their nutrients by sucking the blood from the bodies of their host. Then there are parasites that live inside the host's body, like tapeworms, roundworms and hookworms, and by staying inside their body they get their nutrients. Examples of parasites that live on or outside the body of the hosts include leech, mosquitoes. Now we know that mosquitoes suck blood from animals and humans, and by sucking the blood they get nutrients from that blood. And mosquitoes also cause many number of diseases like dengue, malaria, chikungunya. Other parasites includes the bed bugs, fleas, mites, ticks and louse or lice. Then there are parasites that live inside the host's body, and they include roundworms, whipworms, hookworms and tapeworms. Now moving on to decomposers. In lesson Plant Life we have learnt about decomposers, that they are the organisms that break down the remains of dead plants and animals. Now once an animal dies, its flesh will be eaten by the scavengers, and then whatever is left behind by the scavengers, the decomposers will break that down and turn them into the nutrients and return it back to the environment. So the decomposers are important as they help in keeping our environment clean by decomposing the dead plants and animals, and they return back the nutrients into the soil, thereby increasing the fertility of the soil and making it rich in the nutrients. Some examples include fungi like mushroom, yeast and molds. Then there are bacteria which are microorganisms, and about bacteria we will learn more in the next lesson. Then there are some worms as well that act as decomposers. So, plants are the producers and animals are the consumers, and it can be depended upon what exactly a consumer eats. So, what a consumer eats will decide whether the animal is a herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, scavenger, decomposer, or if it is a parasite.